Today I'm going to show you how to warm up cold emails in 2025 so that you can avoid your emails going to spam. This is most important if you are doing cold email campaigns. If you just get a bunch of mailboxes and you start sending cold emails from them with no warm up, then you're going to land in spam. All the money that you spent on the domains and the mailboxes are going to be for nothing, and your campaign's not going to work. It's going to waste a bunch of time and money. So you have to make sure that you nail this. I'll explain to you how to do it, and then I'll explain to you why it's so important to do it. The beautiful thing is that pretty much every email sequencer, Smartlead, Instantly, Email Bison, or Zazu has email warm up as part of its standard offer. So you can sign up for any one of them and you can expect to see that email warm-up is being offered. You just add your accounts and it'll automatically do it. It's got a big enough pool of other users that can benefit from it. Now, that's not always the case, which is why it's important for you to stay to the end, because you can also pick bad warm-up pools and that will do even more damage to your mailboxes and make them even harder to repair. So I'll get to that at the end, but for now, let me just go through exactly how you'll set it up. Pretty much every sequencer is going to follow the exact same rules and usually the same setup. So in this case, I'm going to be setting up one of my own email addresses, and it's a Google address. So I'm going to go to Connect Google, and I'm going to follow these instructions exactly. Go here and find API controls in the security menu. Then go to Manage Third-Party App Access. This is Access, API controls, Manage App Access. Then take this, and we'll want to configure a new app, and you search for it with this ID that they should provide you. Instantly, Smartlead, they're all going to have their own one that you can use. Just make sure that you get it from them. And then go ahead and you can do it for all users. Make sure that you make it trusted. Make sure that all looks good, and you're finished. Once you've done that, you click here, and then you connect Google. It'll launch this. You find the account that you're on, you hit continue, and then allow. And bam, your account is now connected. The email inbox is warming up. Now the thing is, this is very straightforward and easy, but you're going to need to do this for every single one of your domains and mailboxes, which is why usually I just recommend you get a service to do it for you. There's plenty of them online. You can do Hypertide or Mailer or cheap inboxes or whatever. But the important thing is that you do not want to start sending from this mailbox just yet. Let's just talk through this for a second. Why does warmup even matter before we go in and adjust the tools? And you can see, I'll show you the warmup adjustments you can hear as well as instantly so that you can see kind of all of the options you can have. But really quickly, just talk about like why it's important even to have warmup. Put yourself in the shoes of an email service provider like Google or Microsoft. If you are trying to sell a bunch of mailboxes to people and you want to have good conversations happening, people don't want spam in their mailboxes generally. So how are you going to guarantee that? Well, you look for spammy behaviors. Spammy behaviors would be sending a lot of emails from one mailbox. It would also be sending a lot of the same emails to a bunch of mailboxes. It would also be sending a bunch of emails and having no engagement on the back end. People marking you as spam, all of those things. So how do you fix all of that? Because what they do want is regular conversations. I send an email to you, you open it, you might click something, you might reply back to me. They want to see as much of that as possible. So there's a thing called a warm-up pool. There's a bunch of different mailboxes that are engaging with one another. Typically, most people recommend that you do this for 2 to 3 weeks. Let these mailboxes just talk to each other so that email service providers, they see a new mailbox pop up on the map and they realize, oh, regular stuff. Conversations happening, they're clicking, they're responding, regular stuff. People say it's, 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. To be honest, there's nothing that happens at week 3 where the email service provider suddenly goes, oh, okay, it's good. It's been 3 weeks exactly. The point is that you want to give your mailbox a base of activity so that it looks like it's more regular sending behavior than not. It's the same reason why even after that 2 to 4 week period of warm up, you're not just going to go and send 100 emails from one mailbox. You're only going to send 15, 20, maybe 30 at most. And even then, I kind of caution you against that. Then the next question, right? Once it's been 2 or 3 weeks, what do you do with the warm-up? You leave it on. You don't touch it. You want this buffer of actual email activity to be present at all times. And then you want just a couple emails to be going out per mailbox that look like cold emails that may not get the engagement that you want. That's how you protect your mailbox. That's good sending behavior. Last thing before I show you all of the different settings that you can play with in your warm-up tool, what do I need to be careful of when it comes to email warm-up? And I mentioned warm-up pools can be really bad for your domain if you don't pick the right ones. You need to be very careful about which sequencer you pick and how good of a job they do keeping their warm-up pool clean. Think about it this way, right? If I sign up 50 mailboxes and you sign up 50 mailboxes, and then I decide I no longer am going to do cold email. I'm just going to let the mailboxes go. I'm not going to take them out of Zazu or Instantly or Smartlead. Then what happens is that we start sending emails to one another. My mailboxes are expired. Your emails are going to bounce. And that's bad for your domain reputation. The ESP, email service provider, is going to see that and think to themselves, who is this person sending a bunch of emails to a bunch of email addresses that don't exist? That looks like a spammer. I've had this happen personally to me where I signed up for a free email service and they didn't maintain the pool at all. And suddenly all of my warm-up emails were bouncing. And so I basically had automations sending emails to emails that don't exist, just damaging my reputation for my mailbox. It's so bad and it's so hard to recover when it's set up wrong. So make sure you pick someone that's reputable, like Zazu, like Instantly, that actually takes care of their pool and has really good email warm-up practices. So this does a good job of explaining what they do in the warm-up, but let's dive into the actual settings. So you should be able to find your email accounts here, and you'll see some of the settings right up here. Now, what Zazu does really well is that they've actually manufactured all of this stuff, and they have some really advanced warm-up settings, everything from instituting best practices on daily limits for your mailbox, waiting between sends, and also creating warm-up messages with AI that are actually crafted to your offer specifically. So, because if for whatever reason the email service provider decides to get really, really crafty and see if these seem like real emails that you would be sending, you're already sending warm-up emails that have to do with your industry, your business, whatever. So they are pretty ahead of the curve when it comes to warm-up settings. And for that reason, they don't let you play around with too much of the settings because there's a couple right ways to do this and there's a million wrong ways to do it. So just let them do their thing. Now, if you take a look at one of my accounts here, in my Instantly account, you'll see kind of the full scope of all of the different email settings that you can have for warm-up. So if you click here, first of all, you can enable it here, and then you can change a bunch of different features from the first name, last name, signature, tags, but this is really where you get into the meat of it. Campaign limits, minimum wait times, all of that is good. But when it comes to warm-up settings, there's these things from, you can determine how much you want to increase it by. You can have a limit of how many warm-up emails you want to send. You can adjust the reply rate. And Instantly has something called slow warm-up that is default setup. The idea is pretty simple. Basically, you upload a mailbox and right away, it can start sending a bunch of emails, or you can let it slowly ramp up the amount of sends. You can pretty much guess which one seems more realistic. You don't typically join a company on day one with a brand new mailbox and start sending 30 messages out of it. Let it warm up slowly. Don't try to rush this. Better foundation, better reputation, more longevity. And then they even have some advanced settings down here. You can have it on weekdays only. You can have it actually scroll and look at your message as if it was like a real person. It can warm up your tracking domain. And then you can also even control how many of your emails are opened, protected from spam, and even marked important so that they don't land in promotions. This is just some of the settings and some of the nitty-gritty you can get into. The last thing I'll say is right here, there's a warm-up filter tag. Why does this exist? What happens is that you get this clearly weird number character combination that is nothing that a human would actually write, so that when you do see these emails show up in your actual mailbox, because they will show up in your mailbox, then you can simply create a filter to filter it out. I'll show you what that looks like. So I take this and I click this search options right here, and I simply put in, has the words and then the code that it gave me here. You hit create filter, and then you can create some rules. You can have it skip the inbox, read it, make sure it never goes to spam, always mark it as important, and create the filter. And if you have that existing already, then it'll apply to all the conversations that you want if you check that box. Not warming up your mailboxes is one of the many things that causes people to start cold email or to create a campaign and for those campaigns to absolutely fail. There's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. Most of the time, people just need help doing this in mass. If you're like me and you're creating hundreds of mailboxes for your enterprise clients and you need to get all of them set up in a matter of days or weeks, then you don't want to sit here and log in and log out and go to the admin and do all that stuff. You just want someone to take care of it for you. So if you need help creating an outbound campaign that's good for enterprise, that's good for any industry, that can send up to 5, 10, 15,000 emails a day, then reach out to me. There's a link in the bio. We can schedule a call and make sure that we get you set up.